All right, we are live. I've got the wrong link here. So let me just grab the right link. Oh, not yet. Copy this link. Share it in the group. We are live right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Sunday live stream. Oh, the year is coming to a close. That year went by so quickly. I made a video based on what was requested last week, and that is right here. I'm going to post it in the group. Let's see. And then also, did you guys sail this week? You're sailing anywhere. Hey, Caro, John, Dum, Fabrice, good to see you. How are you doing? So I did a video based on what I do for my legs. You asked me what I do for my legs. So here is a little look into part of my leg training. Hey, Den. Ah, nice to hear you had a wave session. Are you on your new board, or your the board that you had the fins changed on? Yeah, Dum. I know the feeling. So anyway, I posted this new video. Maybe we can even watch it together. That'll probably mess up my internet if I try to open it, but I can. Yeah, Carl, hopefully it works for you. We plan to go back to Maui. Hey, Greg. Yeah, nice to see you. So I posted this video. I don't have enough USB ports, I think, because I've got the file on this hard drive. Let me see. I want to go over it just kind of quickly. Let's open it in another window. Let's see if this works. If this doesn't work with my connection, if it starts getting kind of laggy, just let me know. I posted it in the group. Oh, eBay wants to play ads. Oh, let's close that. Cool. We've got a good crew today. Mert, Brian, Rasmus, Dan, nice to see you as well. Jennifer, cool. Good to hear that you had a good session, Jennifer. I'm really happy to hear that. Edwin, nice. All right, so I made this video about what I do for my leg fitness, and it's super simple. I posted the link in the group, but I'm going to try and load the file. Actually, it is on this hard drive. Yeah. All right. So I just want to go through this just shortly, because we were talking about this last week, what I do for my legs. And this is not everything I do, and it's really not comprehensive, but it gives you sort of the outline, the skeleton outline of something that you can do to put into your training. You can do this 3 times a week, and you'll notice big benefits. Hey, Samuel. And so, Tomas, so these are exercises that you can do that help with your leg strength, your glute strength, and they help transfer the energy from your body down through your legs to the board. They also help prevent injury because you've got strong legs, balanced legs. So these are just, you can watch the whole video. I just want to go quickly over it because we talked about this last week. So like with a rubber band, just walking side to side, this is really good for your glutes. You can do this in a small space or a big space, whatever you want. But having a rubber band like this is really good. You can get different strengths, work up to more difficult rubber bands. This is the clam, which again works the glutes. The glutes are really important. They help connect your whole body. So they connect the upper body, the lower body. They help for your leg alignment, your knee alignment. So having strong glutes is really important. And it's not just about working the muscle. In fact, it's probably less about working the muscle and more about getting those neuromuscular connections firing so that your body knows that those muscles are there and that they're turned on. And that helps with the whole chain of muscles in your leg. It makes such a big difference if your glutes are active versus if they're not. When we were looking at some of the footage last week, we saw sometimes people's legs were wobbling in the bottom turn. Having strong glutes really helps to keep the legs powerful. This is another one called forward tees. Basically, you've got a bit of bend in the knee on the standing leg, bend over, and you keep your hips parallel with the ground. So you don't want your hips like this, as I show. You want to make sure that your hips are parallel with the ground. And again, you should really feel that in the glutes of your standing leg. You can do this like 3 sets of 10 on each leg. You can add weight if you need to. And then lunges, you can do rear stepping lunges or forward stepping lunges. Start these without weight and then add weight to it. So, lunge just looks like this. And again, just really focus on keeping that standing leg strong, making sure that your knee is staying straight with your leg. It's not folding in. You can add weight. You can add a lot of weight with these. And then, this is just, hey, H has a lot of experience as well with training. And again, this is not comprehensive. This is just, if you're not doing anything, put this into your routine 3 times a week. So like with the lunges and the squats, I'm doing pretty heavy weights in the gym. And then the other stuff, I'm doing also a lot without weight. And then you want to make sure that you're also working the like posterior chain. So like the hamstrings. So this is a really simple one. You can't really see in the video, but my butt is off the floor. So I'm, my lower back is lifted up a little bit off the floor, and then just rolling that ball in towards me, and go really slow when you're pushing out. And that's harder to do. It's harder than going fast. So go really slow when you're pushing out. And you can do it with 2 legs to start, and then if you want to make it more difficult, you go to 1 leg, which then you have to balance it. And again, go really, really slow out, and that's important for the posterior chain when we're working a lot on the anterior chain. You want to make sure it's balanced. And again, this is not comprehensive. This is just a little insight into what I'm doing. And if you are not doing anything, if you already have a routine, great. If you're working with a trainer, great. But if you're not doing anything, this is something you really need to do. And it's important because windsurfing doesn't really work your legs, but leg strength is important, right? So, if you're going windsurfing every day, you're going to have strong arms, you're going to have a strong back, you're going to have strong forearms, and that will be sufficient for those muscles if you're just windsurfing a lot. But windsurfing doesn't train your legs as much as you want. So if you do that little bit of extra leg training, you'll notice huge gains on the water. That video is posted on YouTube. I posted the link in the Facebook group. Looks like I accidentally posted it twice in the group. So I'll delete one of those. H has a lot of experience. So H, what are you saying? Nordic leg curls. Yeah, Nordic leg curls are hard. I like doing Nordic leg curls as well, but those will mess you up. All right, I share this twice, so I'm gonna delete one of these. Nordic leg curls are where your heels are like held down, and then you go forward like on the negative, and then like I can't really pull myself up. So I'm more working the negative on the Nordic leg curls. All right, I'm deleting this extra post. All right, so that's posted in the group. It's also on YouTube. For the moment, it's unlisted on YouTube. That means you can only access it through this link that's in the Facebook group, but I will unlist it. It's just by the time it was uploaded, it was ready to start the stream. And so I just got to go through the YouTube settings and make it public. I will do that after the stream. Caro wall sits are great as well. And again, this is not comprehensive. It's not everything. It's just something to start you off if you're not doing any kind of leg training already. Or maybe it's just to show you an alternative of some new exercises if you want some variety in your routine. But anyway, so that's on YouTube. The link is in the Facebook group, and the link on YouTube will go public as soon as I finish the stream and I go through in the settings and make it public. Hey, Sven. All right, cool. So that is a little follow-up from last week. And now let's get into the coaching. H is saying that he's been sailing his secret spot in North France. Oh, that sounds cool. I want to see some footage. Get some footage. All right, so let's get into it. So we've got a lot of good questions and videos that were posted in the group this week. So I want to just kind of fly through it. And again, you guys stop me. So the chat rules, how this goes. If you have a question, you want me to slow down, you want me to focus on something, just let me know. You guys know the drill. You guys are all regulars. But in case there's someone new, if you're new, say hi, actually. If you're just lurking, say hi in the chat. And you can always ask a question. Everyone is free to ask a question. Hey, Dan. I don't think I said hi to you. Hey, Dan. Alrighty. So Jeff asks, I love this question. How do I improve my awareness of what my body is actually doing while doing it? Samuel asked about the Fiji routine for mobility. I don't know what that is. Post what the Fiji routine for mobility is. I'm curious. All right, so this is a great question, Jeff. And I don't have an obvious answer off the top of my head. There's some good answers I see here that I agree with, like being filmed. I think seeing yourself is really important for raising that awareness, because you have the idea of what you're doing, and then when you see what you're actually doing, and the more you see that, then the closer that those two get to each other, and which is kind of what you're saying in your question. And Dan, and so the footage, like people are saying, is great, and I know that, Jeff, that you do film yourself and you have seen yourself. And you know, last week you were talking about you were getting people to film you. So you're already doing that. So what can we do in addition to being filmed? And I think doing certain exercises are useful. So for example, in the master classes I was teaching this week, the masterclass weeks that I was teaching this year, we were doing ladder drills. And so ladder, it's like it goes out on the ground. It's like a drills that they do in football. Like, I'm sure H is super familiar with ladder drills. It'd be great for him to show us all of the ones that he knows. But for example, doing ladder drills where you're working on your coordination, I think really helps to keep your brain, or to make your brain aware of what your body's doing. And it's so funny, like you see someone do one of these ladder drills, these coordination drills on the ladder. I'll just search that real quick just so you guys know what I'm talking about if you don't have a mental picture. So it's like, something like this on the ground, and then you run through it. It's a common exercise for football, other sports as well. Great, it's good training, really good for your coordination. And so anyway, so we did a lot of those exercises on the master classes, and I think that that's a good way to help raise awareness of what your body's actually doing, because it puts your mind more in your body. I think doing yoga is also good. Doing Tai Chi, especially windsurfing Tai Chi, where you're working on windsurfing moves very, very slowly, can also help with that awareness. Doing other sports, so like getting out of your routine, can be really helpful. So like where you're getting in that zone where you feel really awkward and you feel like things are not working, and working through that, I think helps as well to make that connection. But it's difficult, and it's a good goal to have. It's something that I feel when I try, especially when I try new sports or new things that I feel like I should be good at. So like, for example, hey Bart, like for example, I was in Berlin a few weeks ago, and I was doing the indoor wave there. And hey Ragnar, and I've never surfed a standing wave before, or an indoor wave, and I thought it would be really easy. I would just figure it out, and it wasn't. It was nothing like surfing for me. And I kind of figured it out, but I wasn't able to rip it like I thought I would, and my body felt so awkward. One thing that really helped in that process was looking at footage of me doing it, because I realized, oh, I'm actually doing something kind of weird with my body. Okay. So footage, again, I think is probably one of the best things you can do. But the other things I said as well will also help. And Jeff, I want to hear how that journey goes. Speaking of footage of yourself, Jeff, here's some footage of you working on cheese rolls. Yeah, it's cool. It seems like you're in a really good place, and yeah, I love to see it. Ouch. All right, so can you guys see these? Let me make this a little bit bigger. So here's working on cheese rolls. Can I make this bigger? All right. So Stina. Nice, Jeff. Oh, ouch. So Jeff, this is his first day working on cheese rolls, and we can really see the progression. I mean, in the beginning, they were more like face plants, but by the end, those are legit cheese roll rotations. Ouch. But you're really getting there. A little bit more height. A little bit more height, and you'll be landing them. The issue with these initial ones is you're just not getting off the water. And so you want to have a bigger wave to get that height. That height is so important, makes it so much easier. And I'm not talking about a lot of height. I'm not saying you've got to go 4 meters high, but getting, like for example, that one, you're doing a pretty similar motion to the other ones, but you're going, 1.5 meters in the air, and that's enough to get this rotation. So the height is the number one thing to work on. And I know that you're comfortable getting a bit of height, so it's just kind of putting it together with the loop. Maybe going off of bigger ramps will be helpful, more on the outside. Let's slow this down, look at the technique a bit. I like the technique, what we see here. One thing a little bit different, I want to see you push your front hand even more towards the tail of the board. Even more towards the tail of the board, rather than it's punching a little bit forward, kind of like a forward loop, and then stopping. I want to see it driving towards the tail of the board through the whole rotation. So you're really driving that front hand back, and then just getting more height. With more height, you'll get there. Like with more height, all of these will be rotated. Yeah, H. The pistol squats, the one leg squats are also good. I agree. But these look good. So the main thing, Jeff, is more height. So off of a bigger wave. And 2 is driving that front hand more towards the tail of the board. Does that make sense? So rather than just throwing it forward, really driving that front hand back towards the tail of the board. Tomas is asking, is a reverse sail 360 good practice for that, just to get the feel for the sail? Maybe. It's similar. And also like the downwind carving 360 is also kind of similar. They're similar. There are differences, but it is similar. All right, moving on. We've got this footage from Dan of Cena. So this is super cool to see. Let's play the footage. Let's expand it. So great sailing from Cena. I'd like to see it. This is in Tenerife. Nice. Oof. All right. So we're going to watch these, and then I'm going to go through the specific questions. All right. So, good work, Cena. I can't remember the last time I sailed with you, but it looks like you've come a long way, and that's nice to see. All right, the questions are, how to be faster in the turns, how to make it back up to the lip. She struggles with pointing the board back to the wave, so oftentimes she is more parallel than orthogonal when hitting the lip. How to deal with bumpy water surface during the bottom turn. These are all great questions. All right, let's go back through and watch this footage again with these questions in mind. So I want to point out a few things that I like to see. First off, I like that we've got some bend in the knees and that we're turning the knees into the turn. That's great to see. And something that we talk about a lot with respect to improving the bottom turn. I like that you're getting low here, Cena. Okay, so I'm going to try to answer these questions. Cena, I saw Dan is in the chat. Is Cena, are you guys together? Otherwise you, I guess, just watch this later. So for bumpy water, it's a great question because bumpy water, choppy water is really annoying when you're riding a wave. And the truth is you really want to avoid it. You don't want to be turning where there's bumpy water. And so really pay attention to the surface on the bottom of the wave and try to find the place with the smoothest water. And that is pretty important. And there are a couple side effects when you do that. One is that often the area that is the cleanest is also where the wave is going to break with the most power, because the surface tension is pulling the water, and that's what's making it smooth. So you want to be looking for those areas with clean water. Otherwise, having a lot of bend in your knees helps to push through and to absorb the chop. So to answer point 3, first of all, you want to just visually avoid it and try to make sure that your placement on the wave is in a place where the water is clean and smooth. But then having your knees bent helps to absorb whatever chop is there. So to answer number 2 about being completing your bottom turn more rather than finishing with it sort of parallel to the wave, I think, Sina, we've got to change where you're aiming with your head, or where you're aiming with the whole rig, which starts with your head, where you're looking with your head. Because a lot of times it looks like you're aiming very far down the line of the wave. And so I think it just starts with aiming for sections that are closer to you and just having the confidence that you can get to those sections. Second, I want you to drop down the wave already facing the direction that you're turning. So here you start to do that, but in some of these other drop-ins, you drop in the wave pointing upwind. Hey, Nicolas. So here you're pointing slightly upwind, and then you go into the bottom turn, which just means that you have so much longer that you need to turn, which makes it more difficult with the timing. It makes it more difficult with the speed, like in your question for number 1. So try to drop in on the wave already angled in the direction you want to go. So angle on the top of the wave and then drop in and do your turn. That also makes it easier to see where you're going and to plan ahead with where you want to turn. Let's see if I have a video. I'm not sure if I have the Tenerife footage on this. So I'm not sure if this is mainly from the wall. So it's from Tenerife, but not from the same spot. I just want to find just one example just to show kind of what I mean. Not a great example. I guess I don't. Yeah, I guess I don't have a good example of that. Sorry. But anyway, you want to drop in so that your board is already angled, starting to angle in the direction that you're going. There's a little bit of hand movement going on, but always we could see a little bit more. So gripping wider at the start of the bottom turn and then exaggerating the motion where you bring that backhand forward again in the cutback will give you more control as well. And then I'm gonna keep throwing things in. And Sina, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to pick out one or two of these concepts that seem like they make sense. Work on those on the water for a few days, see how that feels, and then work on some of the other concepts and try to integrate these notes into your sailing like that. Don't try to integrate them all at the same time, because that will be overwhelming and it's not going to be helpful for you. In the coaching, we talk a lot about getting the high five with the wave. And so what that means is that you want to connect the bottom of your board between your feet with the power of the wave as it's throwing forward. And so as the wave is throwing forward, you want that energy to hit the flat part of your board between your feet to get that high five. And I think if you are thinking in those terms, it makes it a lot easier to position yourself on the wave for your cutbacks where you want to turn, because it in some senses it takes away the randomness of it, because you're just trying to find the places where you get that high five. So for example, that high five moment here is on this white water, but by turning under it, it slows you down. You're doing the work to do the turn rather than the wave. And you really want the wave to do the work for you. Riding waves is not hard work. At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're taking this energy that's traveling in the ocean in the form of waves, and you're transferring it to board speed. And your board is designed to pick up that energy. You just have to put it in the right place. And so it's not hard work. So here you're muscling this turnaround, but what you want to do is present the bottom of that board to this little whitewater here and let its power turn you around. All right, let's watch number 3. Mert is saying that she's not bringing her backhand forward enough. Let's watch it. The backhand comes a little forward. It's hard to see how forward it comes, and Sina's definitely getting pulled over by the sail, and so there's definitely an issue here with sort of the sail opening up and then it's pulling her laterally, pulling her forward. But there's a lot that I like about her form. I like that she's got her butt low, and she could do even more of that and sort of really hang from the sail and try to drive on the heels. So another big concept, Sina, is you really want to be thinking about using your board this way, not this way when you're on the wave, right? So if you want to turn over there, you put the board on the rail and you go over there. You're not trying to turn it laterally. And I'm not sure what you're thinking about. You are getting some good rail use, but I think that having that in your head will make a lot of this wave riding easier, even if you're already doing that concept somewhat. So for example, on this kind of turn, you really want to get that board on the edge, because it's when it's flat like this, you're not really able to transfer all this power into the turn, because then the board is being pushed sideways. Whereas if the board is on the edge, then that power can go into the rail and help the cutback. But good effort. I really like to see this effort. The last thing I'll say, and then you've got a lot of things to work on. And again, like I said, don't work on all of these at the same time. I'm going to say 2 more things, actually. Don't work on all of them at the same time. So, okay, there's another moment for a high five. So here you can really get the high five on this corner section, just placing that board into that white water on this corner. All right, so my last 2 points are, 1, I want to see you lean over more in your bottom turn. So at the moment you're a little bit upright. I want to see you really trust the board, trust the sail, and lean more forward. You can really use the sail to help hold you up in these onshore conditions, but just lean a bit more over the rail, over your toes, and really try and transfer that power of your weight into your feet, into the rail, to the toe side rail in the bottom turns. And then the last pointer is to really work on riding the whitewater. And so you do this in this last clip, and I want to see more of this. I want you to really integrate this into all of your sessions where you're trying to do turns on the whitewater. Doing turns on the whitewater is a great exercise for everyone to do. The timing doesn't matter because the wave is already broken, and it is great training for the angle of your board to feel that high five, that energy transfer. And also you can really work on completing those bottom turns. So you talk about not wanting to go so parallel with the wave. And so just try to hold that bottom turn even longer and try and get the nose of your board pointing straight out. It's a great exercise to work on with the whitewater, and then letting the whitewater push you back around. So trying to get a more complete bottom turn working on the whitewater is a great exercise for that. So you've got a lot of things to work on, Sina. Just do 1 or 2 of them at a time, and I want to hear how it goes. All right. We talked about this question last time, right? Juso? I'm pretty sure we did. Yes, we did. All right, Carl posted this, and I'm not sure if we talked about it. I think we did. I remember pulling up my the other book that I recommended for core workouts. Stretching is great. Here's a video that Max posted. This is kind of funny because I'm in it, but I have no idea who made this or what this is from. This is from some of my footage from Maui. Tomas thinks maybe it's AI created, which is kind of funny. I didn't know that there were AI windsurfing clips. That's funny. Anyway, cool video. Dom has a question about lower back pain after the session and the long drive back home. This is, I think, a very important topic. He talks about tuning the waist harness loose. Isn't it the opposite way of wearing a lumbar belt? I usually sail in strong winds and jump a lot. What about the car seat tuning? Are there good practices? In my car, I can tune the wheel, seat height, and the vertical part, but I cannot change the angle of the lower part of the seat. So Loam 90 is asking about the angle for riding on, practicing on the whitewater waves, which is a great question to ask. So with the whitewater, when you're riding the whitewater, you can do it when the whitewater is small enough so that you're not getting washed. But the angle that you're hitting the whitewater doesn't matter as much as the angle of the nose of your board doesn't matter as much as the angle of the bottom of your board. So you just always want to make sure that whitewater energy is hitting the bottom of the board, and then that will transfer to board speed. You'll accelerate to safety. Whereas if the whitewater is hitting the edge of the board's not designed to work that way. It's not going to transfer to board speed, and it's going to tip you over. So you just always want to make sure that you're getting that board angle, whether you're coming like this or whether you're coming like this. You want to make sure that the bottom of the board is facing the whitewater to pick up the energy, turn it into speed, and speed away to safety rather than getting flipped over. All right, back to Dom's point. This is really a good question, and I've had issues with harnesses in the past. I've had some harnesses that give me severe back pain. I've had different Dakine prototype harnesses. Now I'm really happy with the Dakine harness I'm using. I use the I don't know, it's like one of their kite harnesses actually. It's the same as the Thermoform, but made for kiting. I'm not sure what I'd have to look up what the model is for that. I don't know why I don't know it off the top of my head. Anyway, I'm happy with this harness. I find it super comfortable. It does what I need it to do. But that hasn't been true of all the harnesses that I've used in the past. I was using the NRGs for a while, But then there was a model of the energies that was too stiff for me. Yeah, John is right. It's the pyro. It's the pyro. Thanks, John. Erasmus is saying to ollie onto the whitewater. That's a good tip as well. As you kind of unweight and like lift the board and up and in front of you. But anyway, so I'm using the pyro. I'm happy with that. But like I started to say, there were certain versions of the NRG that really killed my back. They were like too small, too stiff. And yeah, I don't have a good answer as to why they were painful for me. And I know that they're not painful for some other people. I think it depends on your anatomy and where the harness is lining up. But there were certain models of prototype or other harness that Dakine made that really didn't suit me. The Pyro I'm really happy with, which I think is the same as the T series harnesses, but I use it without the sliding hook, which is what the Pyro is. So Dom, I think it might be useful to look at other harnesses if you think that the pain is coming from your harness. Otherwise, there are some exercises to strengthen your back. The book that I pulled up last time, the Core Strength for Cyclists, that's not the exact title. It's something like the Core Advantage. That's what it's called. Has some good exercises. You can get the ebook. I can post maybe some of them in the group. I can go through and just like scan the book or something. But that book I also recommend getting. There's some good exercises there for working your back. They involve things like, lying on your stomach and lifting up your hands and feet, like doing a Superman. And then like reaching back, grabbing your feet, doing things where you're training your lower back muscles. Another good one is like going on a bench or on the ball and holding something with your hands and then lifting your feet up behind you. So you're on your stomach and you're lifting your feet up, like the heels driving towards the ceiling. So you're using your lower back to do that. Do 3 sets of 15 or something. And you want to do it, you could do it, I guess, on a bed or a bench. You can do it on the ball to strengthen those muscles. Car seats, I don't know. I don't know enough about car seat tuning to know what to say. But with the harness, I do think there are some really big differences between different styles and brands of harnesses. And I don't know if there's a universal answer. I think different anatomies, different people have different preferences. I know some people really like the stiff harnesses. I don't. I find those hurt me. The Pyros, the T7, the Dakine one has some stiff parts, but it also is kind of not stiff. And that works for me. I don't have any pain with it. There's such a variety across the different kinds of harnesses. Some of the harnesses, like I think the Maui Fin Company ones, are just nothing. There's no support. You can roll them up. And then you have other ones like the what are they called? Ride Engine, which are like full carbon, totally hard shells. And that's a pretty big difference between the two. And I don't know, between which is better for your body, I have no idea. It's not something that I've tested enough. I've just done the little bit of testing with the Dakine products and found that I like something that's not so stiff. But I don't know. Some people are saying the seat harness really helps them. I've heard that as well from other people. We've got some physios in the group who are giving some good advice. Caroline is saying that maybe there's some postural issues. So she's got some advice for sitting on the seats. PP is a great resource, and I want to get him more involved in the group. He runs. I know some of you guys are working with PP already, so he has a fitness group. He's a trainer, and he has programs that are specific for windsurfers. I know like Dennis works with PP, and I think a few of the other group members are as well. And yeah, so he's got some advice about your hip flexors. And so yeah, stretching your hip flexors is also a really big one. So I didn't talk about that in the little training video I made, but hip flexor stretching is also really important, especially when you're sitting all day and your hip flexors are getting contracted and shortened. So you can, if you do a lunge and you really like sink into a deep lunge, that will stretch your hip flexors. Or you can put your like with a chair, put your leg behind you like this, and then lean forward and sit into it. You feel that stretch in here in your hip flexors. That's a really good one, especially if you're sitting a lot, you are working or driving, sitting a lot, and those hip flexors are getting shortened, and this really helps stretch them out. But I recommend, again, working with a physio, because they'll have a better knowledge of your body. As for the van, I think that's a really good question, and I want to hear what you find out. So if you do make some modifications with your van, or how you're driving, how you're sitting, let us know. I think that's a really interesting issue, especially for European windsurfers who are driving a lot to get to the spot. Dan is saying he used to have the same issue as well. Yeah, interesting. So he thinks it comes from the driving. Dum, I'm not sure if jumpers tune their harnesses tighter while surfers have it big. I mean, I know a lot of the guys in Pozo also ride loose harnesses, so I'm not really sure. It's a good question. I'll ask around and see. All right, yep. No South Africa for me this year, unfortunately, even though I was planning to, but it's just become too difficult with the COVID variant. We already talked about this. All right, Jennifer posted some video I want to get to right now. So let's read her comment, then we'll watch the video. Here's a few clips from Sunset Beach. The first couple are some of my pretty typical rides where I either slow down or turn right under the lip. The last couple clips, my speed is a bit better. The last one, once where I finally have speed, but you can tell I'm not sure how to handle it. I'd appreciate any tips for key things to focus on in my next session. Thanks so much. Hey, Owen. All right, let's get into this. All right, there's the first one. Hey, Max. Ouch, 15-hour shift. Oof. I like this. I like this ride here. You're very active here. And I like that this high five that you get with the whitewater. So just so everyone can see, this is an example of the high five that I'm talking about, where Jennifer is coming up to the whitewater. She's still going kind of parallel, but she positions the board just at the last second right here to get the high five, so the bottom of the board is positioned to catch that energy and transfer it into board speed. So good effort there. Sunset can be tricky. It can be sort of a one-hit wave, which it looks like it is in some of these sessions, in which case it's quite difficult to get a rhythm. There we go. There's some speed. Yeah. Look at that. Boom. Okay, so there's a lot to go through here. I think these first few waves are not that easy to ride. You can see that there's a lot of chop in the waves. Here I can see there's sort of these little ridges running through the wave. But I like that you're staying high on the wave. And here it looks like the wind is quite light. It looks like you're on a pretty big sail for your body weight. It looks like, yeah, so it looks like kind of light conditions, which make it a bit tough. You can go with a wider grip on the boom, also moving your front hand a little bit farther back, and that will give you a bit more control over the sail, and the sail won't feel as big, and you'll be able to maneuver it more quickly, which also might give you the confidence to hit the lip on a section like this. So gripping wider in that bottom turn, I think you'll find really useful. So that's I think one main thing to work on. And like with all the feedback I give, I don't want to overwhelm you. So I want to give a few key points and you work on one of them at a time. I like this little turn here that you do, where you do the sort of small bottom turn, come up to the top of the wave. It's a good way to get speed. It's unfortunate that there's not much wave left after that. That was sort of the whole wave. Whereas if there had been open face down below you, you would have been really well set up to ride the rest of that wave. All right, I think here's the last wave. And it looks like the conditions have changed a little bit. I could be totally wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong, Jennifer. But I think that the conditions have changed a bit. It looks like there's maybe a little bit more wind, and you're able to set up on the wave with more speed at the beginning, which is really helpful. Again, having that wider grip will give you a lot more control. So gripping wide in that bottom turn here. I like where you're aiming with the board. You're really aiming the board to pick up speed from the wave, which I like to see. Boom. It's a great effort, really great effort. I think the wide grip is going to make a really big difference for you. Good recovery here. And you can see how well your equipment is working with all this speed. So the board is working really well. So wide grip, like we already said. Then here, if you want to do this kind of turn, the wave is doing something kind of weird with the lip, which is normal for sunset. But really trying to get that high five also on these sections, and then the wave will project you in a way that you can control. But really good effort. Having that wide grip will be really, really useful for you. And then so let's count the points. So wide grip 1. 2 is in all waves really try to keep up your speed, which is important. You mentioned that in your comment. But so really from the beginning try to get down the line and pick up speed, which makes turning, makes all the wave riding a lot easier. And at sunset, it's something that you can do pretty reliably, to really get set up with board speed, like you're really pumping, going down the line. I'm curious what size you're on, because it does look a bit big for your body. And that obviously makes everything more difficult if you're on a bigger sail. But that wide grip will make a big difference. Always actively trying to get that speed will help you. You're already getting the high fives, which is great. Keep focusing on that. there's something I want to point out with the bottom turn, which I'm almost hesitating to say because that might be the next step with what you're doing, but you can start to sheet out as well. So this entry is great, but then at this point here, you already want to start pushing out with your front hand and pushing the sail away from you, which then opens up the sail for the cutback, to be ready for the cutback. You want to open up the sail and then bring that front hand across your body coming into the cutback. Yeah, is that a seal or a surfer? Good question, Carl. Or a shark. Is that a seal, a surfer, or a shark? Let's pause it and see. There's something in the water. Yeah, it's a seal. It's a seal jumping out. Right there. Jennifer, is 5-0 big for you? Or is that a size that you're used to riding? Yeah, these waves are difficult. So one of the things I'd say about these first waves is that it comes down a lot to wave selection, which is a huge part of wave riding. You know, the fundamentals are wave selection, timing, and placement. And being on the right wave is part of the skills that make someone a good wave rider. But we always get it. We often, even the best riders get it wrong sometimes, or a lot of the time. But I think these first few waves are quite difficult to ride because they don't have that much space. You know, they're sort of closing out, one hit wonders, kind of choppy, whereas that last wave is a lot better. It stays open, offers you a lot more potential. Max makes a comment about the boom, which is a great comment actually, to drop the boom. And I don't think we want to make too many big changes all at one time, but I think a lower boom will make a big difference. Don't do it too quickly. Like, I think you can look at dropping it. I don't know if you think better in inches or centimeters, but it looks like you can drop it at least 6 inches, 15 centimeters, maybe even more. That's a great tip. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, dropping the boom, I think, will be really useful. And so I think you want to drop it, 15 centimeters, 6 inches, something like that. But don't do it all at one time because it will just feel too weird. So you can drop it maybe 2 inches at a time. So that's about 5 centimeters at a time. And go from there. If you do it all at once, the rig will feel totally weird. It'll feel super foreign. You might not even be able to sail because it's just so different. But I think that, hey, John, but I think that dropping the boom is a great tip. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Max. Great tip. So drop the boom. Definitely do that. We want to really work on wave selection, trying to find waves that are going to stay open, waves that are going to offer you possibilities. That's obviously easier said than done. It's a huge part of riding waves, whatever the craft is, whether you're surfing, windsurfing, stand-up paddle, whatever it is. I want to see you work on getting the speed like you're doing here. That's great. Wide grip on the boom, so you can grab back almost to the clips, like where my little mouse is here. And you'll notice that will give you a lot of control over the sail. Bring that boom down as well. And then the last point, and this is what I want you to work on last as well, like all these other things you can work on right away. But once you get those points feeling good, feeling comfortable with them, think of sort of opening up the sail. So starting about midpoint in the bottom turn, opening up the sail to help. We've got a few more comments from the chat about loosening the sail a bit because it looks pretty flat. I don't have a lot of experience with the Sailworks sails, so I can't comment on the rigging. So I'm not really sure. It does look a little flat. Oftentimes, you know, if you have the sail a little bit more full, either with the downhaul or the outhaul, it can feel more alive. So you might want to try making that adjustment. Yeah, a sail that is too flat is going to be difficult to use. But you know your sails, and I'm not an expert on the Sailworks sails at all. But it's always good to experiment with your rigging, experiment with your settings. It makes you a better sailor. Play with your mast track, play with your rigging. Don't get stuck just always on the same setting day in, day out. You want to be playing with your gear. So, Jennifer, is that a clear enough homework to work on for this? It's great that you got some footage. I'd love to see more footage on those two, on any of those points, Yeah, so these are great. I want to see some more footage putting those points into action. The lowering the boom, moving the hand back are great, and then opening up the sail a little bit once you get to the middle of the bottom turn. Yeah, so Caro, definitely moving the hands, and that starts with that wide grip. You can put some tape on your boom to know where to grip as well, Jennifer, if that would help you. All right, so Jennifer, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll move on, but we can go back as well. All right, Juso asks, do you schedule one windsurf day, one rest day alternating, or do you just go how you feel? How much time do you spend on the water on a windsurf day? How long to recover? I find it hard to stop once I'm out and notice how tired my body gets. See you, Samuel. What's the best gear to put under the Christmas tree? A GoPro? Yeah, I think GoPros are good. Insta360, those are great. Or a carbon boom. I think okay, what can most people do to improve their sailing? Getting filmed, so an Insta360 or a GoPro, carbon boom, see you, Carl, and then a trainer, so like a physio, to make sure that you're fit and healthy. Those, I think, are probably the three most important things for people to do. All right, so to answer Juso's question, this is one of the difficult things with the sport because we don't know when it's going to be windy or not. So I try to sail every day when it's good. If we have a long stretch of really good days, I might feel that I just need to take a day off with my body. And that happened to me, for example, in the spring on Maui. We had a stretch of really good days. And there was a day then that was just average. And I just felt like, okay, I just have to take the day off. And after that, the wind kind of died. And that was one of the last days that I could have sailed before I had to leave. But I think it was important. My body needed that rest. And I had a lot of days beforehand. So I try to sail as many good days in a row as I can because you don't know when the next good day is going to be. But also I try to pay attention to my body. And if I'm exhausted from a lot of windsurfing, I try to give myself a rest, or I just sail for 30 minutes, something kind of short. So which brings me to the second part of your question about how long I sail. I aim to sail between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours. And if it's really good, I'll try to sail more. Some days when it's epic, I'll sail maybe 3 or 4 hours with breaks. So I try to sail maybe at most an hour and a half at a time. Sometimes I sail more if the conditions are really good, but I find if I sail more than an hour and a half at a time, my ability starts to drop on the water. And yeah, I think even an hour is maybe a better goal. And then you come in, have some water, have a little break, then go out again. I think if you sail too long at a time, one, you can get dehydrated. Two, there's a point where your ability sort of stops. Like you stop doing actively good things. You start to do this kind of like passive back and forth. And that's a state that we want to avoid because we don't want to be training bad habits, right? So it's good to push yourself. It's good to sail long, but not to the point where then you're working on bad habits, right? We don't want to be, training things that are not, we don't want to be training bad habits, right? You want to be training good habits. So if you get to the point where you're just tired, your body's tired, and then you're falling on your tacks or whatever it is, it's time to come in, have a break, drink some water. So that's going to be different for each person. For me, that's around an hour and a half, I think, where it's then good to come in and have a break. Probably the max is like 2 hours at a time. And then in a day, I think 4 hours is about my max. I can sail longer, but like I said, I don't want to be training bad habits. So I'd rather have a really focused 2 hours than sail 4 or 5 hours exhausted and train bad habits at the end of the session. I'd rather put it in a lot of energy in that 2 hours and have a really hard, fun 2 hours than a longer session. That said, if it's really good, 3-4 hours is I think good. All right. Got some good suggestions in the chat as well for other gear. William Bueller got the sail, was asking about a mast. So this is like a 20-year-old sail. So that's pretty old, but it should still work with a 400 mast. Just pop the top with the extra long webbing that comes in the bag. All right, we've got a question from Federico about the best city in Europe that offers good job market and quality of life, sunny and mild climate, consistent windsurfing and wave sailing conditions. I think that there are not very many locations. Lisbon, I think, is the best one. Otherwise, Las Palmas or maybe somewhere else in the Canaries. I'm not really sure. I think Las Palmas offers that and Lisbon as well. But I'm not sure where else in Europe. I love Lisbon. I'm always considering moving to Portugal. I really like the windsurfing there. I like the lifestyle. And I like the climate. But Gran Canaria also has good windsurfing. Las Palmas is half an hour from Pozo, and there's a lot of other good windsurfing and surfing spots as well that are closer to Las Palmas. And it is a proper city with a good job market, and it's a sunny, mild climate. So those, Lisbon and Las Palmas, I think are kind of the only cities that offer that in Europe. Otherwise, there are some good cities, or some cities that are close to good windsurfing, but they don't have a sunny, mild climate. I'm in Hamburg at the moment, which I like. I like Hamburg, but I don't think it's the best city for windsurfing in Europe. All right, we've got a question from Mark about fins. He's been using the Dyno 105 and finds himself spinning out. So he's using a 6-meter sail with the stock center fin, which is 23 centimeters. And the board. Okay, so you can try using a bigger fin. I think that's a good idea. You can also move the mast track back a bit on the board, which will help put some more pressure on the fins. So you could try moving the mast track back about 1 centimeter and see how that feels. Or try using a bigger fin. I'm not sure what other people said. There's a lot of good answers here. Check the harness lines, foot straps. Yeah, it sounds like people are using much bigger fins in it than you are. So Mark, I think that you've got some advice, and that try moving the mast back as well, the mast track back. That will also help put more pressure on your fins to avoid spinning out. Yeah, so give that a go. Sounds like you've got some good advice here already. We got a follow-up from Jeff about the gloves that he bought. Sounds good. Malcolm asks for each place about what the authorities do where you live with storms. So in Maui, we can pretty much windsurf whenever, but there are days where the beaches are closed. Like some of the massive wave days, which is maybe once every 5 years, Ho'okipa will be closed, but mostly it's open. But the difference is that on Maui, we're not riding storms. You know, the swell is coming from pretty far off, and we've got trade winds. And so it's not the same as in other places where you have, you know, like you're saying, 50 knots of wind and 4-meter waves and stormy weather and rain. So again, it's not the same, but on Maui, it's not very limited. It's interesting to read what the situation is like in other places. So I enjoyed reading these comments, and I'm always curious what it's like where you sail. And there's so many cool spots around the world that I want to try. Hey, Ryan, is that a question, how to sail more on the front foot, or is that advice? I'm not sure. If that's a question, give us a little bit more. Do you mean in the wave riding? All right, and I think that's it I think we're caught up with everything. So again, I posted this video to YouTube about just some advice on leg training. You can find that link in the Facebook group. It's not public yet on my YouTube channel, but I'll make it public as soon as I get off the live stream. And so it'll be easy to find, easy to share. Ryan, if that's a question, I'd love to answer it for you, but you got to give me a little bit more info. Do you mean sailing more on the front foot? The easiest way to sail more on the front foot, if that is a question, like for example in the bottom turn, is to make sure that your hips are turned into the turn. So hips pointing towards in the direction of your feet rather than in the direction of the nose of the board. So I can kind of show you a little example here. So like instead of, I don't know if you can see this, but instead of having my hips turn this way, turning the hips towards the toes. And so that is the easiest way to transfer weight onto your front foot. Make sure you're riding more on the front foot in the bottom turn. Does that make sense? It's a concept we've talked about a lot in previous live streams, and it's a concept that I'll bring up again and again because it's really the best way to make sure that your weight is forward in the bottom turn and you're driving the rail as you should. So hopefully that's clear. This was great. If you have any questions, post it in the chat, post it in the group. I think we're going to call it a night. We've already been going for an hour 20. Sounds good. I will see you. Oh, Ryan is giving advice for the fin question. Yeah, that's also good advice to avoid the spin outs. Thank you, Ryan. All right, so I'm going to call it a night. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I will see you next week, Sunday. As always, post your questions, video, everything in the group. Jennifer and Jeff, I want to see some follow-ups with footage. Hopefully you can get that. Hopefully the conditions are good in Cape Town. I haven't checked the forecast. I love what's going on in the group right now. We've got a lot of great comments and discussion, which is so cool. I love seeing, a post like this, like Cena's post has 29 comments. I love seeing that. You guys are great at giving advice and discussion. Love to see it. It's not just about me giving my opinion, but hearing what works for all of you guys. And I love to see it. All right, I'm going to sign off. Have a great week. Hopefully it's windy and you're sailing somewhere. I'll see you next week Sunday.